Alrighty, welcome to a brand new episode of Coffee and Cameras, the show where I ramble on a Saturday morning, or I guess now it's Saturday afternoon for me, because I decided that doing this at 8 o'clock in the morning on the Saturday on the East Coast doesn't make a whole lot of sense. And so I've moved it to a little bit later in the day after I've, gone to the gym, run some errands, and had something to eat. We will continue to drink coffee on the show. I'm actually doing a iced cold brew here to, you know, make it a little bit easier on myself. I made a French press this morning, but now I don't want to necessarily go for the whole rigmarole and everything to make a fresh batch of coffee. So I have my cold brew ready to go, and so this is going to be plenty of caffeine to get me through this live stream. If I die, I die. Don't worry about me. Cardiac arrest. Not a big deal. It's not going to hurt anybody but myself, and that's all that matters at the end of the day. So, I just realized a couple of things about the stream. It is still on my normal streaming settings, so it's streaming at 60 FPS, even though this camera is only 30 FPS. So that was a decision I made. I'm gonna do some streaming later, so I'm gonna kind of just keep the settings as they are and just kind of play with it as I go along. But just know that the setup is still kind of trying to learn some new things as I go along. Anyways, hope everybody had a good Christmas. For those who are now in the Hanukkah season, hope you're all having a happy Hanukkah. Um, Kwanzaa folks, hope you're enjoying Kwanzaa. Nobody talks about Kwanzaa anymore, at least not in popular culture. I remember it being a big thing in the 90s. It was all over the place, but nobody talk. I know people still celebrate it. It's not talked about in the zeitgeist anymore, which I don't know if that's a good thing or not. So, not gonna go too down that rabbit hole. Uh, so, it's been a week, and as most things go with weeks, ups, downs, turnaround sides. My Christmas was very, very low key. Just went over to the in-laws' house, hung out for a little bit. I sharpened their knives, and we watched the first couple episodes of What We Do in the Shadows, which is a show I'm familiar with, but I never sat down to watch. And it's funny. It's good. Obviously, it has that mid 2000s mockumentary style that you saw with shows like The Office and Parks and Rec, and they're playing off that kind of thing, which results in the humor being really, really kind of dry and witty. Obviously, there's a lot of British actors associated with it, and so you have to be attuned to that kind of humor, and it's not a laugh out loud kind of funny, but it's just like that was a clever joke, and I appreciate a clever joke. But that's basically all that really was. Didn't do a gift exchange this year because of my unemployment. I appreciate my family being accommodating to that. Everybody more or less was on the same page with it. Um, Everything's finally kind of calmed down as far as family stuff goes. Not gonna get too much into it, but my sister gave birth to my nephew in October, but he was 3 months premature. And so there's been a lot of stuff going on with that situation. He's now out of the NICU and home with my sister. Everything seems to kind of be on the up and up. He's healthy. He's, catching up on his development and growth cycle and looking like he's going to be a very happy, healthy young lad. And so I'm very excited about that. Stuff with Mike's family back in New Mexico. They're just doing the normal holiday stuff. So I feel like that stressor in my life has finally kind of like just hit a even keel now. And so now the biggest stress of my life at this point is my unemployment, which is what it is. Yeah, losing your job during holiday season, not fun. Because you're trying to kind of like hit the ground running on trying to find the next gig, and a lot of places aren't necessarily hiring. There's a lot of postings out there, but you don't know if they're legit or not. We need to have a conversation about job posting boards and things like LinkedIn. LinkedIn's kind of a trash fire right now, and it seems like it's only getting worse. Earlier, my video that I did on the main channel this week was talking about AI and the problems that it caused. And one thing that I realized I didn't touch on was how AI was affecting the job market as it stands right now. The biggest issue I'm seeing is that, you know, obviously automation has been a big, big part of specifically the job application process. Like, a job posting goes up, people apply to it, and it's using some kind of bot that's going through the resumes and weeding stuff out. But now with the advent of AI, we're seeing essentially uh people are using AI for their resumes, and then companies are using AI to sort through the stuff, and it's like crazy, this weird sort of dichotomy where you have AI trying to catch AI, and it's all over the place. I don't necessarily know what the solution is to that, but probably after I find gainful employment, because I am using LinkedIn as a avenue for my job search. I am going to do a what the fuck is going on with LinkedIn type video. It probably won't be my next video. The problem with AI videos, probably the first like overly negative video I have made in my new kind of talking to camera series, and I don't necessarily want to get in the habit of making all of my content like overtly negative. My previous videos, one was talking about podcasting, the video before that was talking about whether or not you should hire a videographer, which wasn't inherently negative, but was being kind of critical of companies that hire videographers not necessarily knowing how to manage that kind of stuff. A lot of this stuff is based off personal experience. And then, of course, you have my resume video, which is basically just intended to be as a eye-catching way to kind of pitch myself to companies. But yeah, so I definitely want to have a conversation about LinkedIn, but timing needs to be right. But I am very critical of the platform. However, the platform is the most visible avenue I have for kind of just getting out there on social media, trying to find my next job. Speaking of my job search, that's going about as well as it could, given the timing. Um, I had an interview last week with a car dealership for their marketing department. I'm not expecting to hear back to them till the end of this week because they were, just starting their interview process. They're interviewing multiple people, and they've been pretty transparent about what the process looks like. And so I'm not expecting to hear anything until after New Year's, so probably end of next week. Um, I felt that interview went pretty well for the most part. I think the only thing that is hyper concerning to me is that their salary listing that they had on the post that I applied to was super lowballed, like crazy low starting and max salary. And so I still applied for the job because on paper, like, I'd be perfect for it. And I kind of made that clear when I talked to the hiring manager, and when I was having the conversation with them, I mentioned just like, yeah, I applied for the job because I thought it was a good fit, but the problem I see is the salary range that you guys listed. I'd be looking for something more in this range as opposed to the little range you posted. And that may have disqualified me from the role, but the reality is that like what they posted was like for somebody who's like straight out of college would have been a lowball number. So I don't know specifically where they were going for, but the hiring manager that I interviewed with was like, yeah, no, I didn't post that number. Give me your number, and we'll just have that be part of the conversation. I'm assuming whoever else they interview with are likely going to have the same reaction as me, but you never know. There might be some people who are desperate enough to take that low of a pay, but like the amount of money that they had listed was just for that position and that kind of work just like absolutely unacceptable. So that's a conversation for another time. Sort of. And so this week I also had a phone conversation with a recruiter for a position as well. They have me set up for an interview on Monday, so it seems like they're trying to fast track this as much as they can. So gonna have to get mentally prepared for that. So there's traction, there's movement. I am getting interviews, so the fact that I am getting past that initial, weed out phase of application processes is encouraging. I think one of the biggest frustrations I've been dealing with over the last year now, really, if you look at it, has been the fact that I normally interview so well that basically by the time I've gotten the interview, like I can pretty much guarantee the job. And that hasn't necessarily been happening for me lately. There's a couple of reasons for it in my head. One is I think a lot of places have become very strict on their hiring processes. And a major part of that is a lot of places are trying to hire positions based off of not just, finding somebody who fits the role, but also they're trying to find somebody who's a perfect fit that they don't have to train. And there's a big problem now with a lot of places not wanting to do on-the-job training, which is going to shoot them in the foot. And like you're seeing a lot of places not fill roles as much. There's also definitely places that are posting job listings and saying like, hey, look, we're hiring, and they have no intention of hiring those people. And I know that's a thing that's happening because I've worked for companies that have done that practice of having jobs that they're hiring for listed, but they have absolutely no intention of actually hiring those jobs. That's a thing that's happening. You're also seeing, like I said, the AI stuff. There's a lot of problems. I also don't like the practice that I'm seeing where I'm dealing with HR before I'm dealing with hiring managers. One thing that I appreciate about the car dealership that I interviewed with that I mentioned before is that I talked to the hiring manager first before they're going through the HR practice, which I think that's the way you should do it. You should have the people who actually have an idea of what they want the role to be the ones who interview initially, and not necessarily have HR who has no idea how the job's supposed to work, I guess field it. I understand the logic behind it, and they think that they're being more efficient and like helping them weed out people. But at the end of the day, HR folk don't know what most people in their respective companies do or how their jobs work. That's why they're in HR. So why would you have an HR person be the one who's asking people questions about the job that they know absolutely nothing about? I'm just saying, like, come on. Be a little more self-aware. So yeah, that's the thing. Like I said, the other job that I'm interviewing for currently, I'm going for a recruiter. The recruiter was very enthusiastic, I guess is the word that I would use to describe them. They got me an interview with the COO on Monday, so they're really trying to fast track this, which is encouraging, if not also maybe a red flag. But assuming it's the right fit, it's the right fit. I have some other plans and contacts that I plan to leverage after New Year's if things don't start moving in the direction that I need them to, but that's kind of one of those things where I only have so much control over what happens down the road. Yeah, that's where I'm at right now. As far as kind of content for the future goes, I need to come up with my next video idea for next week. I'm trying to think up of maybe something around like, hey, it's 2025, here's my predictions, here's my ideas of what's going to happen in 2025. I don't know if that's the direction I want to go. Obviously this week I did the AI and its problems video, and I did that because I wrote that video out months ago, and so it was in my head. It turns out that the script that I wrote for it was on a different hard drive of my former employer, so I had lost access to the script. But I'm also trying to kind of start to transition from more scripted content to doing more off the cuff content, where instead of writing out a whole script, I write out my talking points and then I try to have more of a flow. I find that that's better for things like the presentation of a video. It's more personable, it feels more genuine and authentic, whereas when you write something out on a script and you're reading off a teleprompter, it feels like you're writing off a teleprompter. Again, I'm really just trying to kind of develop these skills at this point, and that's a major part of it. Ugh. Caffeine. Caffeine. So I used generic espresso beans for this coffee. So very bold flavor for a cold brew. Not necessarily as high in caffeine as it could be, but it's definitely a thick cold brew. So definitely has the flavor, definitely has the caffeine that I am looking for, and I am pretty wide awake, all things considered. Plans for my day today. I dropped the dog off at my in-laws' place so they can watch him for a little bit. Dog definitely needed some Gammy time, as we like to call it, and Gammy seemed to want to have the boy around. So my plan for the day is to do some more streaming. I'm debating heavily if I want to move over from YouTube to Twitch streaming. Given that my following, quote unquote, is practically non-existent. Hi, everybody who's not watching this. It seems like I still have the latitude to kind of experiment with what I want to do and see what actually works better. Twitch hasn't been great to me in the past, but there are certain aspects and features of Twitch that work better than YouTube does. For starters, even if, say, I am streaming whatever game and somebody decides to raid me, at least like I get the opportunity to find a new audience. Obviously, Twitch's discoverability for new streamers is a lot better than YouTube's, specifically because live streaming on YouTube is not a main feature. There's just a lot of things that I'm kind of considering. I'm gonna play around with my Twitch profile a little bit, see if I can make some changes. But for the most part, I'm just really debating on whether or not I want to stick with YouTube, which YouTube has some features that I like, and it's a platform I'm comfortable with. But Twitch seems just to be the better option for what I want to do with live streaming. So specifically that I'm not like stuck in like a single stream. I can change the stream as I go. I think one of the things I'm going to have to look at specifically is how VODs work on Twitch, because I know after a stream, a VOD asset is created, and I don't know if you can download that asset and repost it other places, because that's what I see a lot of people do, but I don't know if that's because they also recorded off of OBS while they were streaming, because if that's the case, that might present some problems, because I've had crashing issues on multiple games, and I'm assuming it's GPU related, but regardless, running OBS while also running video game titles seems to be a thing that increases the frequency of crashes. Crashes have gotten better since I've made some adjustments. I updated my BIOS. I tried turning off resizable bar, thinking maybe that would help. didn't really help, so it's back on since I've reset my BIOS. The only other thing I can see to do BIOS wise is maybe deactivate DOCP, aka Expo, on my RAM. Because technically that is an overclock, but I want to run my RAM at the advertised speed, and I don't think the RAM speed is something that's actually causing the crashes. I'm pretty sure it's my GPU, and what sucks about that is that I can't afford to replace the GPU at this point, especially for what I'm using right now, because I'm using a 3070, and basically anything to upgrade is going to be $500+ and being unemployed, I can't justify paying that kind of money for a GPU at the moment. So just more problems for me to have to deal with. Go figure. So yeah, that's kind of just where I'm at right now. For anybody who doesn't know, unemployment sucks. I'm trying so hard to try and fill out time in the day. Obviously, I'm working on my side content projects, trying to kind of, stay on top of my skill sets and learn some new things and try some new things, but it is still pretty frustrating to try and navigate through, to say the least. I would say if there's anything that I appreciate, I'm definitely less stressed than I was when I was working at my last job. God, my last job made me so miserable, and like I'm not nearly as depressed as I was when I was working there, but I'm definitely still not 100% mentally in a good place. But it's nice not to have to deal with that environment anymore. So I'm hoping that whatever ends up being my next gig ends up being a little bit more positive toward my mental health. But beggars, choosers, kind of the world that we live in. So, anyways, that brings us into the next part of the show, which is going to be just looking at some internet news. So, have IGN fired up right here, and we can just look at what's going on. The yellow painted video games needs to stop. I saw this video this morning. It's actually kind of interesting. It's something I never thought about. I guess yellow paint in video games is kind of a annoyance. I understand why it's there, but I guess that's kind of become the new thing. And basically, what yellow paint is basically just user experience, game designers' way of basically trying to guide players to do certain things. And yeah, it's an interesting conversation. It's not something I ever really thought about, but then again, I think I just don't play games that are trying to tell a narrative and guide you down a certain kind of path. And I think that's specifically why yellow paint exists. Let's see, they have obviously biggest disappointments of 2024. That's an interesting concept. Yeah, of course, Concord's gonna be on here. Yeah, Concord, hardware hiccups, PlayStation, unreliable reliables, bad adaptation. Can we please just pretend this doesn't exist? I feel like we're all in agreement that we're just not going to talk about the Borderlands movie ever, nor should we. Oof. Anyways, Wicked, don't care. Batman 2 delayed by a year. Yeah, they need to figure out what they want to do with that before they actually take it to production. Yeah, not a lot of interesting stuff going on right now. I mean, it's end of the year. I think a lot of stuff are going to be moved forward later. Going on The Verge. Trump asked Supreme Court to let him rescue TikTok because he wants the credit for rescuing TikTok, obviously. yeah, I have no confidence in this, no matter what it is. Elon Musk riles up Trump's far-right base in praising immigrants. This is the whole H1B visa issue going on right now. It's such a funny topic because it shows how out of touch I think a lot of the right is about immigration and how it's supposed to work. It's so funny. If you look into this topic, it's actually a really interesting read. But yeah, more or less, big tech firms need immigrants to come in to work some of these tech jobs because the United States has a very big tech savvy problem going on right now, and we're just not really well suited to actually handle any of it. USB-C charging mandate arrives in the EU. This is why Apple now has to make everything USB-C instead of using their proprietary technology, which is hilarious. And just some of the birds being the birds. So let's look at Trump's logic for why he should get the credit for saving TikTok. Seek the ability to resolve the issue at hand through political means once he takes office. Alone possesses the consummate deal-making expertise, the electoral mandate, and the political will to negotiate a resolution to save the platform. Yeah, I'm gonna go out on a limb and assume that this is basically just let me be the savior of TikTok. There's absolutely no influential agenda whatsoever into this. Yeah, the whole TikTok ban thing is obviously a broad conversation about that platform going on right now. I'm not confident that it's going to be saved at this point. Um, yeah, there seems to be a lot of interior motive going with this topic, and I think it's mostly just Trump's way of winning political brownie points at this point, because that's what politics has kind of just become, is he gets to get credit for it. We saw this during the pandemic and stimulus packages and a lot of the other stuff that went on. It's all about who gets to get the credit. And then we have the Elon Musk riles up Trump's far right base and praising immigrants. Again, this is a very funny story. Go ahead and take a closer look at it, if you will. But yeah, the H-1B visa crackdown that he imposed during his first term, and basically, Elon and other tech bro-y billionaires really rely on those H-1B visas to, have a workforce that actually can do the jobs that need to get done. Just I mean, this feels very much in the same vein as like what's going on with the tariffs and basically just using policies in a way that basically are overly aggressive and don't actually accomplish the goals of what they're trying to do. Just super super funny. Um yeah, I'm very curious to see where this goes. I think Trump and the tech sector have always kind of pounded heads when it comes to a lot of this kind of stuff. And I know good old Elon has been very cozied up to Trump, but I think when push comes to shove, Elon's trying to kind of just really kind of weasel his way into putting him in a better position, which has kind of been Elon's thing for like at least the last decade at this point. So it's really all there is news wise. There's not a whole lot else going on. Um, yeah. So I'm gonna take a little bit of a break, and I will probably get on streaming a little bit later. I'll put on some Halo. I'll put on some maybe some Marvel Rivals. I'll maybe get on some Baldur's Gate a little bit later, but today's a streaming day, so that's what my plan is for the most part. And that's where we'll go from there. So I appreciate everybody tuning in for this episode of Coffee and Cameras, watching me drink coffee and talk to a camera. I swear I'll get better at this content style eventually, but you know, there's a lot of things that go into it and things I am trying to figure out. But until then, I will see you next time.